Are you thinking of leaving corporate, but too afraid to make the move? Have you already escaped corporate, but are finding it hard to run your dream business? Are you wasting valuable time by attempting to figure challenges out on your own? We have created a podcast for corporate escapees running their own business. This is the Corporate Escapees Podcast by Build, Live, Give. We bring you firsthand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day as a corporate escapee. We get real with no corporate BS. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello and welcome to Corporate Escapees, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of people who are successfully running their own businesses, hearing their war stories and motivations for making the jump from their corporate gig. I'm your host, Paul Higgins, and our guest today is someone who has gone from working in an irritating IT job to building a $20 million brand in 5 years. And you just wait and see what else he's got in store. Also, he talks about how he looks after his mental and physical health in this huge growth, and also the importance of finding mentors and serving first and then asking later. So what I'll do now is hand you over to our guest, Nathan Chen from Founder. I hope you're inspired by listening to our wonderful guest stories. All of our guests know the one ingredient to rapidly grow their dream business. That is picking the right suppliers. Let's face it, it's too hard doing it all on your own. So with this in mind, we have created a free on-demand training which gives you the 4 essential questions to ask suppliers. I've combined my 18 years experience at Coca-Cola and 7 years advising corporate escapees all over the world to give you actionable advice in less than 25 minutes. Simply go to buildlivegive.com/webinar. If you are tired of underachieving and want to fill gaps in skills, please watch our on-demand training now. The link will also be in the show notes. Please check it out. Welcome Nathan Chen from Founder to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by Build, Live, Give. So Nathan, I know lots and lots of people have heard about you and you do some brilliant work out there in the entrepreneurial community, but what's something that family or friends would know about you that you don't think listeners would?
Thanks so much for having me on, Paul. It's an absolute honor and pleasure, and it's great to connect further. Probably a good one would be that I've had food allergies my whole life. So I'm allergic to dairy, egg, sesame, peanut, coconut, all nuts. So never tried chocolate in my life, never had ice cream. So yeah, a little bit of a bubble boy.
Wow, that's amazing. I've got a condition around my kidney, so I've got to be very careful about what I eat. But you know, I don't know how difficult that is. I couldn't imagine. But I suppose you know you got no choice. Is it anaphylactic straight away if you have something?
Yeah, pretty much. So what happens is if I have something that I'm unsure about, so I'm very, very cautious of the food that I eat. I've just been trained that way because I've had this my whole life. And yeah, if I have something that I'm a little bit unsure about, I'll only eat a small fraction of it first just to get a taste for it. And if I get a funny taste in my mouth, my body will tell me if it's no good. And then I 99% of the time just have some an antihistamine called Phenugan. Mm-hmm. And I'll be okay. I'll just get really drowsy. But if I eat too much of whatever that is, or if it's something I'm highly allergic to, so I think I'm probably less allergic to egg versus I'm much more allergic to milk. I would never touch either, and it would be insane for me to do that. But just for some reason, one way or another, I think I just scored much higher. So yeah, anything milk related or whatever. So sometimes it's a bit of Russian roulette. If I accidentally do have something, or if something does accidentally fall into what's going into my mouth, I might have to go to hospital. It might be a serious reaction. So it is definite anaphylaxis.
Well, and anyone else in the family with it, Nathan?
No, just me.
Just you, just lucky you, hey?
Yeah. Wow. That's the way the cookie crumbles, mate.
Oh, great. Well, look, I know, you have been really well documented and you've got an awesome podcast yourself around a bit of your story, but I'd just love for you to just talk a little bit about how, you started in IT and now have gone into being a huge brand supporting entrepreneurs around the world.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Oh, wow, a lot of kind words. I think we're only just scratching the surface, mate. But basically, it was 2012. I just finished a degree in marketing. So I was my first degree was in IT, and I went and got a job in IT support. As time went on, I absolutely, utterly hated it. And I was really upset and not really happy with my life because the work that you do is a big part of it. And so I decided to go back to university and study marketing because I did an elective in marketing. I really enjoyed it. And then basically somehow, just kept working in IT and finished this degree part-time, this master marketing degree. And I couldn't get a job. No one would hire me in marketing. I worked at an accounting firm first in doing IT support as an IT consultant. It was so bad, timesheets, you name it, man. It was painful. And then, I had a really bad micromanaging boss. He had no idea. I learned some of the greatest lessons I've learned around just a whole ton of things, but not a good business. And I learned about a lot about what you should not do. Hope he's not listening to this. And then I went to a big company in the hopes, doing IT support in the hopes that I might be able to transfer over once I finished my degree. And I went for 3 job interviews once I finished my degree in marketing. No one would give me a crack. Went some other big companies still wouldn't hire me. And then as time went on, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So everyone kept saying, you don't have any experience. So I thought, okay. And I started to read books around business and entrepreneurship. And I thought, I'm quite passionate about technology and I'm quite passionate about marketing. Maybe I can combine my skills with technology and marketing and do online marketing. So I started reading, I started doing all sorts of things and reading Tim Ferriss's books. And long story short, I ended up just launching this magazine with, it cost me about $3,000 off the back of my credit card. I was in a shitty kind of job doing low-level IT support and about $50,000 a year. And it cost me $3,000 US to pay for the magazine software and to produce the first edition of the digital magazine. So at the time, it wasn't called Founder; it was called something else. And launched it March 5th, 2013, and all with the goal and intent of just marketing something and having a bit of fun. It's just a passion project. Didn't think it would go anywhere. Thought maybe, you never know, but never thought in my wildest hopes or dreams that it would turn to what it is today. And we really are just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Yeah, and when I know, listening to your story on your podcast, and the 200th episode was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, Dave did an awesome job, hey?
Yeah, Dave did a great job in interviewing you, and we'll put the links to that in the show notes. But what were some of the key fears that you had at the time? Sounds like it was $3,000 is a big investment when you're only earning $50,000 a year. What were some of the key fears you had?
You know what? It's really funny. My key fears was wasting that money because it was a lot of money. So because I was so frustrated, Paul, I just had enough. It's funny. I walk around today and feel so happy and excited about the work that I'm doing and feel so humbled and blessed and lucky. At the same time, you make your own luck, but and sometimes people look at me like I'm some superstar, right? And it was literally only 5 years ago, I used to walk around at a job, 9-to-5 job, and everyone thought I was the biggest idiot going around, man. It was so degrading. People used to call me up just absolute idiots, be like, oh, they call up the IT support and be like, oh, Nathan, my password doesn't work, or oh, my mouse doesn't work. And I'd just be like, oh my God. So I go down there. I would literally pull out the mouse from the USB and plug it back in and be like, bang, it works. And like, just people thought I was the biggest idiot going around. It's so funny how life can change. So I used to hate that because I knew inside of me I was destined for so much more. I knew that I could do something so much more. And I was embarrassed by my current situation, the work that I was doing. So to be honest with you, Paul, my biggest fears were like, I invested this money. Like, how can I get out of this? How can I find work that I'm really passionate about? How can I do something I'm proud of and do work that's something that's meaningful to me and that's exciting, and because life's too short. So yeah, those were my fears. It wasn't so like, because I just was past the point of worrying about whether this will work, past the point of worrying what other people think, past the point of, failing or anything. I was just so insanely frustrated that I just didn't want to waste that money. And yeah.
Yeah, and I know your eye for design is great, and we talked in the pre-setup here just about your blogs. I think they're fantastic, and the whole way that you design things is that something that just comes naturally to you, or is that something you've really had to work hard at?
Oh, great question. Well, this is something else that the audience probably wouldn't know about me. Before founder or anything, I actually used to be very into fashion and clothes. Like I'm a straight guy, but you could say that I don't know if they have it in the States but like metrosexual, or you could say I was a metrosexual guy. I still kind of am, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I've always, and from that, I've really developed an appreciation for great design and really high quality things. Now, I don't drive a fancy car. I don't have a Rolex. I have no interest in that kind of stuff. But I have a really strong passion, a really strong respect for great quality stuff and the craftsmanship behind it. So I've always had that. And I think, part of that, like interest in fashion and stuff for men. And I still love that stuff. I don't really care that much anymore. But that has yielded and transferred over to what I think a great design looks like, what great product looks like, what great experience looks like, and what excites you. But then at the same time, I was very lucky that I learned a really great lesson when I first started. So when I was starting the magazine, I got this designer in South Africa, right? You outsource, yeah. And I got this designer in South Africa to produce the magazine, and I got him to produce a magazine for $200, man. It's ridiculous thinking back. And you know what? It looked like a $200 magazine. And then I stumbled across this other guy that it was taking ages to get back to me, and I found him on Behance. You want to find great designers, you go to behance.net or Dribbble. And his name was Kern, and he was from India. And he was significantly more expensive than this person that I paid $200 for the magazine, but still insanely cost affordable for producing a magazine at the level that we produce or anything we produce. And I said to Kern, I'll never forget this conversation. I said to him, look, we've already produced this magazine. Like maybe we just get you to come on and do the second issue, and we can make some money and stuff, and maybe we can cash flow it. And he's like, you know what, Nathan, if we're going to do this and we're going to do it properly, I highly recommend we start from scratch and from the beginning. We do the branding ID, everything from scratch. He said, I know it's going to cost you more money because you've already paid somebody else, but when you invest in high quality design for a startup or any brand, it pays its weight in gold in returns over a long period of time. And that couldn't be more true than ever today. There are so many entrepreneurial brands. There's so many people that are promoting and producing entrepreneurial content. And that is still a strong USP, not just what we do at Founder in many different ways. We've got USPs, like, all these other different things, but that is still a strong differentiator of what we do, the quality of the product, the experience, and the quality of the design. So I learned that early on, and I've been working with Kern still to this day. I even went to his wedding. Me and my girlfriend, Emily, we went to his wedding in Chennai. in India. So we've got a great relationship. Like even when I caught up with Seth Godin for coffee, I brought like Kern, like come with me, and we caught up with Seth. So like, yeah, it's I've been lucky like that where I've had a really strong, talented person to do that stuff. But it is kind of weird that I don't have that background.
Yeah, no, look, I think that's so important. I suppose my background was Coca-Cola, and we were sort of always taught a similar way that you just invest in your brand. You spend lots, and I can't tell you how many meetings we sat there on. Little even marks, colours, anything. We spent so much time on it, and I think it's so important to you, and especially in today's world. Like everyone makes decisions on their phone, as and you just go to someone's LinkedIn profile or their website, and you can either build trust or lose it just in a split second. So that's so important. And, Kern helped you. Who else has sort of helped you on this amazing 5-year journey? Just, think of a couple of key people, and because I know that people are inspired by how quick you've done it, and they'd love to learn, who helped you along this way, on this path.
Oh, man. That's a cool thing. Like, it's actually a bad thing that, like, I'm the face of the brand, I'm leading it, but, we've got an incredible team. I've been lucky to build like such an exceptional team of like serious weapons at what they do. So tons of people I could give credit to. Probably most notable ones is Dave, who interviewed me for episode number 200. He didn't always work with me from the start, but we've always been friends from the start. We met on the phone. We've been really great friends, and we always used to talk about things. And then I convinced him to come join us pretty early on, probably about 3 years ago now. Maybe 2.5 years ago. And that was, he's been amazing. He's been with me throughout the whole journey. And then probably Jonathan. He doesn't work with us anymore, but he was our first employee. He's moved on. People used to think he was my brother because we have the same last name.
Yeah,
but,
I did.
we're not related. Jonathan, in the early days, couldn't have done it without him. Jesse's really, really solid as well. Jesse's been with us for a couple of years as well. And then also Angela, one of our virtual assistants. She was like the first virtual person that we brought on 3 years ago, at least 3.5 years ago. It's been a wild ride. There's so many more that have like joined us in the past, year or so. A lot of people in the past couple of years now. There's about 15, 20 of us now. Going to have to scale up more actually. So, we've got a really great team. Like team is everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I've listened to lots and lots of your podcasts, and, you get this sense of being humble. And I've actually seen you present a couple of times as well. And, I laughed at that comment you made about your mum, where she, you said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and she basically just burst out laughing. But that humbleness, is that something that, once again, is that innate, or is that a part of your environment? Where do you get that sort of humbleness?
I've been told throughout my whole life that I have, and I know this might sound kind of weird to say, but I've always had a very kind, caring nature about me. That's just who I am as a person. Like we really do care so much at Founder, more than people would know or imagine. Like we go above and beyond, like people would imagine. So I guess, I've got quite a kind heart, and I haven't come from much really, Paul. Like my mum was a nurse, my dad was a teacher. The people that I look up to are not people that drive Lambos and stuff. Like, yeah, that stuff's cool. Like, but like, for me, I don't want to be. It's just who I am, man. Like, I just don't want to be the man. Like, I'm not interested in building the Nathan Chen personal brand. Like, maybe I might one day to further fuel and grow Founder, but right now, like, I'm the leader. Like, Richard Branson is to Virgin, or Elon Musk is to Tesla. But like, I know like personal brands, a thing and stuff. I really just want to grow Founder. It's just what I was born to do. Like, build businesses. it's just really fun, and I know I'm decent at it. So yeah, I don't know. I just have no interest in that kind of stuff. That's just me. It's just like 5 years ago when I started. Like, yeah, I wanted to get out of my job, and money's great and stuff, but we sacrifice profit for growth. I could pay myself ridiculous amounts of money and not hire any staff if I wanted, but that doesn't really excite me. And the kind of people I look up to are people like the CEO of a company that I used to work for, the travel company, Intrepid Travel. It's a $300 million turnover company. Darryl Wade, the most humble guy you could ever imagine. Like, they're the kind of people that I look up to and respect and love and aspire to build a company or something. A company of that level of significance and impact just really excites me. And
Well, I think that I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't authentic, that are trying to be, but I think what shines through in the way you've answered that is you are, you're just authentic, and I think that shines through in your brand, and I think that's why you've done so well in the 5 years. And what's sort of the future vision for entrepreneur, for a founder? Where do you see it in another 5 years?
Well, thanks for the kind words, Paul. Try my best to not drink the Kool-Aid, but we're so deep in it too. You say that we grow fast, but man, I don't reckon we're growing that fast. But that's just me. Anyways,
I'm happy to swap Instagram followers.
Yeah, but it's all vanity, man. It's all vanity. Anyways, what's next for the next 5 years? Well, millions of people consume our content every single month. I want that to be in the tens of millions, and I want to build. And this is our vision. Our vision of Founder is to build a household name entrepreneurial brand. I believe that there's a true market opportunity here, where a lot of these other entrepreneurial brands, while they're great, and I read their content too, I just think that there is room for a more grassroots kind of brand, and we're putting a very unique and different spin on things in a very, I believe, a real kind of what it takes to build a business light. And I think that there's also an opportunity there around the educational space. I believe that's an underserved market. There's a lot of rubbish out there, and I believe that we can create a 10x product and service offering of entrepreneurial courses taught by some of the greatest founders of our generation. And I believe, we can build something truly significant there as well in the entrepreneurial educational space. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the content we're putting out there anyway. So, kind of twofold. My obsession is how can we turn the Founder brand into the status of an entrepreneur magazine or a Forbes or an Inc. or a Fast Company. We're definitely not there yet. We're on our way. I think I can get it there in the next 5 years. I believe that we can build a 10x entrepreneurial educational platform as well in the process, because that's what fuels our revenue. That's what fuels our growth. And we just keep reinvesting and producing more exceptional content. And, there's tons of stuff I want to do, man. I definitely want to do more stuff in the event space. We don't really do anything there. Obviously, we're going to scale up content, free or premium. I believe there's an option. I believe there's an opportunity as well to mix in this educational course piece with some sort of proprietary software that has next level course completion rates, because we know that the course completion rates for people that buy courses are nowhere near as high as they should be. I believe there's something there that we can do and combine that. I also believe that I would love to one day launch a founder co-working space. To be honest, we're probably about 2-3 years away from that, or maybe even 2 years, in Melbourne. And I'd love to be able to create a founder incubator from that co-working space. And, with have like 100 grand and put 20 grand into 5 startups, and we could, create awesome content around that, plus also fuel the startup ecosystem further, and it'd just be a really great hub and a place for legit startup founders to work from. Oh, mate, tons coming. But yeah, that's kind of the direction that I'm really focused on and what's next.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And how do you keep both mentally and physically healthy, given this massive amount of work that sort of faces you and your team? How do you sort of look after yourself as you grow so quickly?
Well, I try and go to the gym every morning. So my schedule is Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays. I go to the gym. I have an accountability partner. So one of my good friends that I used to grow up with, he runs a couple of businesses now too. We, always just go to the gym together and keep each other accountable that way. And we don't want to stand each other up. So we usually get there.
Right.
And that's first thing in the morning. And then every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I've got a new passion for this past 6 months, which is boxing. So I'm doing boxing flat out, which I really love. It's so much fun. And then in regards to staying mentally strong, because it can be quite stressful. Like obviously, exercise is one thing. Another thing is spending times with friends and family, and also like loved ones. I think, and like I'm not a saint at this, but trying to be present when you're around them, I think is really important. I never miss a social event. So contrary to the belief that while we are undertaking a pretty big goal, it's literally block by block, but still, like, I don't know, that's the beautiful thing about the internet, right? Like you can put a piece of content out there and then the internet will do its work and you just get insane leverage for years to come. It's like, you just add another, you just plant another seed that just slowly grows. And I never miss a social event. Anything that's on, I always go. And yeah, it's not as hectic as you would think, believe it or not, Paul. We've got great systems in place, and we try and get as much leverage as possible.
Great. And you interview some of the best minds in the world, and I know your community is sort of supporting startup entrepreneurs, etc. So what is a little bit of advice that you've got from listening and interviewing some of the best, and then giving advice to some of the people that are just starting their journey? What's a couple of key tips you'd love to give on that?
It's hard, this is a tricky part, right? Because a lot of people that follow the founder brand, they might have just launched their business. A lot have maybe not launched a business yet, or a lot have started their business. They're well into their business. They're doing really well. So we have many different segments of people at all different stages of the journey. We don't just cater to one segment with our content. You would see that too. Sometimes there's stuff on starting a business, validating an idea, and sometimes there's stuff on culture or hiring or team building, writing copy. Like, it really is quite varied. So that's a blessing and a curse. So look, if somebody's in the community and they want to start a business but don't know where to start, I think the biggest thing that you can do is you've got to be able to develop your mindset, because I think that's half the battle. Even for me, like, how do we, get to that next level for us? Like, you've got to be able to believe that you can do it. And, one of the strongest ways to do that is to find or hang out with people that have done it before. Now, in saying that, we actually recently, we haven't announced it publicly, but we actually recently shut down our membership community offering, just because we just had too much going on, and focus is so extremely key that I just want to. It just didn't really fit into the vision. The more and more as time went on, and I want us to double down on courses and magazines, and that's just all I want us to focus on for a very long time now. So, look, I think that doesn't mean you don't need to be part of a membership community to be able to hang out with like-minded people or people that are doing the things that you want to do. But I just think that's a really good place to start. Is finding people that have done what you want to do and learn from them, hang out with them, catch up with them. And meetups is a good place to start. Meetups, and then also, reaching out to people, even though that might be intimidating, even though that might be scary. I think something that's really powerful, and it's been powerful for me, is making yourself vulnerable, putting yourself out there. And if you're hungry to learn, just putting yourself out there and trying to serve first and ask later. If you see someone or that you admire or respect, don't just go out there and say, hey, can I catch up? I want to pick your brain and extract everything you've taken so long to acquire and learn, and probably spent a ton of money to learn and lost a lot of money for mistakes. Can you give me your time? It's actually quite a selfish thing to do. What you should be thinking about is how can I serve that person? How can I help them? And you might think that you can't because you have nothing to offer, but I guarantee you can. And it's not working for free. It could be, maybe you do have some set of skills. Everyone has skills in some way, shape, or form, and you can make recommendations. You might see a typo on their website. You might know they can do something better. You can just really just try and provide value however you can. I think that's extremely key. And that's a great way to lead with building a network. I think that's a good one. I think the more and more, and I found that for me to be true too, Paul. Like when I started Founder and it was a passion project, I used to think to myself, because I fell in love with it very quickly, and I thought, oh, you know what, maybe this magazine can be a thing. And I said, I'll give myself a year. I'll give myself a year, a good hard crack, and see how far I can take it. And even that, the way that I said it then, like, see how far I can take it. And, I used to say and say to myself or to other people, I hope that I can build it up to leave my day job and cover my operating costs. And I wish that I could leave my day job and Founder to pay my rent and bills, and so I can go full time on it. But the more and more I started exposing myself to these people just like you or I that do this stuff full time, the more I started to realize, and my mindset started to shift, that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when I started to believe that, that's when really things changed. And that's true for anybody at any level that you're at. You want to take your business, you want to get to the illustrious kind of mystical 7-figure mark, and you're at 6 or you're multiple 6. Like, how do you get there? I wish I can get there. I hope I can get there. I don't know how to get there. It's kind of, you have to be able to believe you're going to get there. And I think that's half the battle. And that seems to be very true, right? Like, Founder's not a $20 million company. We don't turn over $20 million in revenue, right? But, I was speaking to one guy and he's built a $100 million company. And he said, like, your founder, he's like, you think you get it to over 20 million in revenue per year? And I said, most definitely. And he said, all right, well, that's half the battle. If you've done it in your mind, that's half the battle. And I think for anyone listening to this that is in a job or doing work that is not fulfilling, I think the probably the greatest thing you can do to really help you is just hang around with people that are already doing what you want to do in some way, shape, or form. And even if that means having to pay that person for their time, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That could be a really great investment in yourself and in your knowledge and your future career. I openly have tons of mentors that I pay for their time, and I'm talking people that have billion-dollar valuation companies. And I spent a lot of money, but it's the amount of knowledge that I get and the amount of the way that I can navigate and like you said, Paul, like, grow things fast. It comes from things like that,
Yeah, and just quickly on mentors, just what a couple of key things deciding which mentor to go with. What are a couple of key things that you look for in a mentor?
Yeah, I think you've got to. For me, I I always see my mentors as my heroes, to be honest. So like, I'll give you an example. One of my mentors is Mitch Harper. He's a founder of a company called Big Commerce, massive company. That was the company I said. It's like, it will be valued over $1 billion. Insanely successful guy. He's based out of Sydney. What I love, I first heard of him on a podcast. I knew what Big Commerce was, but I never knew he was an Australian company or started from Australia. I started consuming some of his stuff, and I was like, wow, this guy's like such a legend, so cool. He's built this massive company out of Australia. I love that he was from Australia, and he's just really smart in this online space. So, it's got to be somebody that I believe is one of your heroes or you look up to. It's got to be somebody that has a similar value set to you. Like Mitch has very, like, family's really important to me. So, he's the same. It's got to be someone that, he has a similar skill set that you want to learn. Like, he's masterful at doing online stuff and building online products. That's what I want to get good at. He's a master of product and marketing. That's me to a T. I'm a product and marketing guy. He's built a company out of Australia, a successful company out of Australia, and then eventually set up offices in the States. That's what we're going to do at Founder. It's someone that's done all the things that you want to do, or a lot of it, someone that you respect, someone that's your hero, someone that has similar values to you. Same with another one of my mentors, Steve Mcleod, incredible guy. Once again, built a very, very large company. Not so much in the online space, but he's an incredible leader and he really knows how to scale companies. And he's exceptional. Same with Mitch, but he has a different kind of spin on things, and I learned tons from him as well. Both of these guys I pay, they don't help me for free. They're getting paid. Yes. And I think I believe like it saved me years to learn. So so they're the kind of things I'd look for.
Yeah, brilliant. And just before we go into the next section, it sort of ties into exactly what you said, but I'd just like to mention our community, which helps corporate escapees like Nathan to build, live and give. So you can get direct coaching by myself, access to hundreds of vetted suppliers. So all you got to do is go to blgboost.com and you can find out more. So you've talked about the gym, etc., Nathan. Just a couple of other daily habits that you do that helps you be so successful.
I'm pretty big on strategy. I don't know if you knew this, Paul, but I'm big on strategy. Like, I love that side of things. And that means I don't come up with these crazy ideas or strategic thinking ideas straight away on the spot and then execute them. I mull on them over a long period of time. Just like some of the things that I described to you, they don't exist in the world yet, but if I keep talking about it, it keeps coming back to me. I think they will. And now that I've said I'm going to do it, and I always say I'm going to do these kind of things, I'll do it. Yeah. But what that means is I spend a lot of time thinking, which is so underrated. There's something Mitch taught me, right? Like, I actually try and have allocated time to just think, because you can get so caught up in everything. Another thing that I like to do as well now is I like to take an annual trip. I did it for the first time last year, and I'm doing it again this year, is I took a trip to Bali, just with Emily, and literally did no work. I said to the guys, I'm going to be uncontactable. And all I did was like literally just spend like a good 10 days thinking about life, about business, all sorts of things. And it was so good, like so beneficial. Like, if you think of, like, I'm into horse racing. I was actually going to start a horse racing magazine, believe it or not. And I didn't end up doing that. And I launched Founder, but it wasn't called Founder, but a business magazine. And, yes. It's just so crazy. If you think, like, imagine if you are a horse, you're like a racehorse, and you're just going for like a year straight. You just can't do that. Like, racehorses, they give them a break. They give them time in the paddock, and they bring them back. They spell them and they bring them back. Same things needs to happen to you as an entrepreneur. I once heard James Schramko use this analogy, and I think it's so true. And I found that to be really key. That trip that I took to Bali just gave me so much more clarity. And that's really helpful. Another thing I like to do as well for us to stay on top of things is another thing I've introduced this year, and it's paying its weight in gold, is Steve Mcleod, that guy I mentioned. He does our quarterly strategy days and annual strategic strategy days. So basically, every quarter we bring in a facilitator who we pay. To come in and facilitate what are our goals. So we review the previous quarter, and then we plan what we're doing for the next quarter, and then we match it all up to our annual strategic goals, and we track those goals every single week. Every Tuesday morning, myself and the founder team, Steve's not involved, he helped set it all up, put it all in place. And me and the founder team, we all have our goals, and this, what these strategy days allow us to do is maintain focus and make sure we don't do too much. Because right now, I think the key to scaling is actually doing less. If you want to scale a company, you actually need to do less. So these strategic days are incredible. So, how can you apply this kind of planning and strategy or strategic planning to where you're at, wherever you are, and perhaps you haven't even launched a business yet? Well, you need to set goals, and you need to track those goals, and you need to break those goals down into chunks. And that's what we do with this traffic light reporting system. Basically, every Tuesday we have 10 or 20 goals, and certain people are responsible for certain ones, and we're either in the green, orange, or red. Green means we're on track, red means we're off track, orange means we're in between. So if you have a goal perhaps to leave your day job, you're going to have a North Star number or a North Star revenue number, which would lead to profit, which means how much you need to be making to be able to leave your job. And there's all these things that need to happen to be able to do that. You need to launch your business. You need to set up a sales funnel that works. You need to validate your product. You need to speak to X amount of prospective customers. You need to find a marketing channel that works. You need to set up your website. You need to write blog posts. There's all these things you need to do. So you can break this down into chunks, and you can literally, starting whenever you hear this, build out this kind of reporting sheet where you have a meeting with yourself every single week where you track those goals, and you're either on track or off track, and you need to keep pushing. And you can see, because whatever you focus on and whatever you pay attention to, that's what grows. And you need a roadmap and a plan to get there. Otherwise, what you'll find is it's just a hope. Oh, it'd be great to launch a business, or I'd love to launch a business, but I don't know where to start. And it doesn't happen unless you have a plan, and you have to focus on it and break it down into achievable tasks.
Yeah, and at Coke we used to have a saying called "Think global, act local." And I must admit, I used to get really frustrated by, death by PowerPoint, how many times we used to have to do strategic planning back when I was a director at Coke. But, on the flip side, now I see why it's so powerful. Coke's around 126 years, one of the most successful companies ever. And, that was definitely part of our DNA. And I think, what you've just given is a brilliant mini masterclass of what people should do. And just the last question in the live section is around Emily. You've mentioned her a couple of times. What would you love to say to her when she listens to this podcast about the support she's given you?
Oh, wow. That's kind of scary if she's going to listen. I guess just really just want to thank you for all of your support over the years, and just being an amazing sounding board, and help support me through the tough times. And I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. And great.
That was a tough one, man.
There you go. So the next section is the give section. So what's a cause or a community that you're passionate about, and why?
As I mentioned to you offline, I want to do more of this kind of stuff. So I feel bad that we don't do enough, to be honest, around contribution on that aspect. There's a company called FareShare in Melbourne, and they rescue offcuts of food that would be usually thrown out, but it's really, really good stuff you can use. But just because the way butchers and supermarkets, they just want the best stuff, and just consumers want the best stuff. So you can actually, this company actually goes and saves anything that's about to be thrown out, which is 100% perfectly good. And, it's all run by volunteers that come in and then actually cook wholesome meals. And these meals, I think they do hundreds of thousands of meals and every year. And these meals go to people that are underprivileged or homeless people that are in need. So, it's an amazing charity. I think it's good teamwork building as well. So I try and get our crew in Melbourne down there, a couple of times a year if we can, just dedicate an afternoon.
Yeah, and look, and I think you've been a little bit hard on yourself too. I think, what you do for entrepreneurs through the magazine and the education platforms, you do a lot of giving, but we'll definitely put the links to Fair Share so that people can have a look at that. And the last section is the action section. So just some rapid response to these quick questions. So one is, what's your top 3 productivity tips?
Okay. Number 1 is, if it's not in your calendar, it won't get done. Number 2 is you can only focus on one thing at a time. And number 3, plan your week in advance.
Brilliant. And apps, whether they be on your phone, your desktop, etc. What are some of the things that you use, software you use to make you productive?
Trello, 100%, 110%. That's our favorite tool to move fast and run off weekly sprints for projects. And probably schedule once is a good tool for scheduling stuff in your calendar. I'm not going to say Slack because I'm not 100% convinced that helps with productivity, but I'm on it all the time.
Yes, very addictive. It's just in a way, it sort of replaced the email. Everyone said, well, this is going to, solve communication with email, but it seems like, with notifications and etc. I must admit, I'm not as big into it as well. And obviously your podcast, which we'll have links to, but what other podcasts do you recommend and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to pull open my podcast. I've been delving in and out of quite a few, but I quite enjoy Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman. I quite enjoy Tim Ferriss's podcast, which is awesome. I don't mind as well How I Built This. I think that's a great one as well. How I Built This by Guy Raz. On the marketing side, I do like to listen to Russell Brunson's podcast. And then also I just found a new one. This guy's a very, very smart marketer and good strategic thinker. It's actually called Your Next Million by a guy called Frank Kern. I've actually changed my opinion of him. He's an amazing guy. He's a really smart guy. I like the way he thinks about things. For a lot of things, he's good. I quite like as well Todd Brown, the Marketer's Mind. He's a really smart marketer as well. A ton of others that I've kind of weaved in and out of. I was listening to Seth Godin's new one recently, Akimbo. I haven't listened to it in a while, but they're the kind of ones that I hover in and out between at the moment.
Right. And speed. What speed do you normally listen to? 1, or do you go a bit quicker?
Normal speed. And because I listen to podcasts only when I'm driving to pass the time.
Right, no problem. And look, you've given so much value in this interview, but in this podcast. But what's some parting advice you'd love to give the BLG audience?
Like what I was saying before, I really, really do believe that you just really got to focus on that network piece. I think it's so incredibly powerful. I know I gave you a bit of stuff as well on how to build that network around serving first and asking later. But yeah, whatever it is you want to achieve, and something Mitch taught me as well, is like you just got to find really, really smart people that have done it before and just learn from them. Like whether you have to, and don't be scared to pay for that either. Like that was something I had to get over, but it's like an investment in yourself, and it really does. If you actually apply whatever that person does, you can get to where you want to go so much faster. And there's great tools as well, like, clarity.fm. That's a really, really exceptional tool. It's like a marketplace for experts, and there's some serious bosses on there. Like, I'm talking like absolute superstars at all sorts of things you could ever imagine. So yeah, highly recommend.
Brilliant. Well, look, we'll definitely put all the links to all the great resources you've mentioned. And obviously, we'll put a link to founder.com where people can find out more about you. So FOUNDR without the E. .com. And Nathan, I'm not very patriotic. I love being an Australian, but it's not often that I say how excited I am when a fellow Australian's doing so well on a global stage. I think to get to 20 million in revenue in 5 years is great, but I think the most important thing is you just started. I think there's so much more that you'll do, and it's brilliant watching your journey, and I really appreciate you inspiring other BLG listeners in their journey to make the world a better place. So thanks for coming on, Nathan.
Oh, thank you so much for your time, Paul. It's an absolute pleasure, mate. And it was great to connect further.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by the team at Build, Live, Give. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with other corporate escapees. If you would like to join a community of like-minded peers, please visit www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time.